the benefits of Ramadan and the beauty that Ramadan has to offer, I've come to put these notes together, and inshallah they will be of benefit. So I'll just jump right in. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa salatu wa salam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. You can approach Ramadan haphazardly, okay? You can take it as it comes, see how you feel each day, and just sort of, do I feel like going to the masjid tonight? Do I really want to do more Quran? Do I want to stay up late? You can just kind of take it day by day. Or you can approach Ramadan deliberately and with purpose. Anything we have in our lives, any project, any assignment, any task that we're given, you can just do the bare minimum and just sort of get it done, or you can flourish, right? And the idea is in Ramadan, you want to set yourself up for, rather than I just want to experience Ramadan this year, no, you want to flourish in Ramadan this year, inshallah. So once you kind of have that mindset shift, you've automatically set yourself up for a higher level of success in Ramadan, inshallah. And this is the hope that we want. We don't have many days. In the description of this workshop, I highlighted the verse of the Quran, أيام معدودات. They're a select, very restricted number of days. They come and go really quick. If you notice, we start day 1. Before we know it, it's day 5. And then, we're at the 10-day mark. And then, oh my God, half of Ramadan has passed. How did this happen? It's just like the days are rolling by. And then we're in the last 10, we finished 20 days. And it's just, it as soon as it comes, it leaves. And so we want to make sure that we have budgeted for it. We are strategic when we approach it, inshallah. And just like anything in life that we plan really well, if we plan our Ramadan well, inshallah, we can maximize its benefits. Think about like when we go on vacation or when we take trips. Look at how much planning we do. We sit, we research, we look at how many days we have. And some people even plan it down to what meals they're going to eat. And, we do a lot of thoughtfulness before we take on major life events and occasions. So Ramadan should be the ultimate when it comes to planning and trying to strategize to maximize the benefits of it, inshallah. So you only have a select number of days, أيام معدودات. It's 29 or 30 days. And we want to, inshallah, maximize its benefit. Okay, so I'm going to just jump right in. First point that I want to talk about when we, inshallah, formulate a Ramadan plan is that you want to write it down, okay? It's extremely imperative that you write down your Ramadan goals and your Ramadan plan. So this could be typed up on your go-to device, whether it's your laptop or your phone or your iPad, whatever it is that you put all your, shopping list and the things that you want to remember and, your important calendar, all of that stuff, wherever that is, write it down there. Or what I like to do, which is old school, pen and paper. I sit, I don't use, something I can type with. I like to see it and have it all visualized in front of me. And I just write out my Ramadan plan every single year. So whether you write it out or type it out, make sure you actually have it written somewhere. It's not just in your head, wishful thinking. Studies have proven that those who write down their goals are 50% more likely to carry them out than those who don't write their goals. SubhanAllah, there's something about the way we're wired as human beings when we actually put to tangible terms our goals and our ideas and thoughts, we're way more likely to act on them than if we just think in our heads, yeah, this year I really want to do this in Ramadan. This year I really want to finish reading the entire Quran. This year I really want to, do this much prayer and this much reading and so forth. We all have wishful thinking. We all have grand ideas, but until you write it down or record it somewhere, then inshallah, it'll be more likely to come to fruition. So the first piece of advice I want to give is write down your Ramadan plan. Okay, next. Make sure your goals that you come up with in Ramadan are realistic and consistent. So this is the second takeaway I want to leave with you. Realistic and consistent goals. What do I mean by that? Ramadan is a month long, okay? Whether it's 29 or 30 days, it's a good number of days. I know I said it's أيام معدودات, it's a limited number of days and they do fly by, but when it comes down to it, when we're actually, going through the fasting and all of the worship elements of Ramadan, there's, it's not just a day or two. We are looking at an entire month. So you got to think of it as a marathon and not a race. And I don't know if you've heard this analogy before related to Ramadan, but it's a helpful one. So keep the entire month in mind, especially the last 10 days and nights. You don't want to overwhelm and exhaust yourself right from the get-go. I see this happen, especially with our youth, with our younger, fasters and our young worshippers, where get so excited. It's the first night of Ramadan, first night of Taraweeh. I'm not just going to pray the 8 rakat. No, I want to do the 20 in the masjid, and I want to, do extra qiyam, and I'm going to wake up before suhoor and do some extra prayer, and I'm going to read so much Quran. And then, by day 2 or 3, it's like they're depleted. They've exhausted themselves, and then you just take like a 2 or 3 day kind of break and not get much done. So you don't want to do that. You want to keep your goals consistent and realistic to your needs and to your schedule and to the demands of your everyday life. So make sure you're budgeting for the whole month. Definitely be lofty. Definitely set your standards high as best as you can, but just don't run yourself exhausted right from the get-go. You want to make sure that you have enough energy for the entire month, inshallah. And especially, like I said, you want to keep those last 10 days and nights. That's when, if you're thinking of that marathon analogy, that's when you're sprinting, okay? The last 10 days and nights is when you pick up speed and you really up your performance, inshallah. So the Prophet ﷺ gave us a beautiful hadith. He told us that the most beloved deeds to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the most regular and consistent, even if they're small, okay? Allah would prefer that we do a small deed, but do it consistently every single day, rather than do like a massive deed, but do it so rarely and so infrequently that it's not sustainable, it's not realistic to carry on a daily basis, and it's done in a one-time shot, and then it's never done again. So you want to maintain, inshallah, some consistency. Keep your goals realistic, inshallah. And this is very important. Okay. This feeds into the next takeaway that I want to talk about is when you are setting your goals for Ramadan, set ranges, not exacts, okay? And this is, straight out from experts on goal setting and habit building. Multiple experts will tell you that when you want success, to achieve a goal in your life, to achieve some kind of standard that you've set for yourself. Let's take weight loss, for example, or exercise and health and fitness, okay? Rather than say, every day I am going to run for 1 hour. That's what I'm doing, okay? That's my goal. I want to lose weight, or I want to be more fit, and I want to be healthy, and I want to be more, I want to have better fitness and so forth. I'm going to run 1 hour every day. That's not realistic for a lot of people. There's days where you have very low energy. There's days where you don't have time. Your schedule is just more burdensome on some days than others. So rather than set a specific exact goal, I'm going to do X every single day. Rather than do that, set a range. So what do I mean by that? So you say to yourself, well, I'll carry on with this exercise example. Rather than say, I'm going to run 1 hour every day, you say to yourself, every day I'm going to do some running. Every day I have to clock in and check off that I've done some movement goal, some running. And so on my best days, on the days where I'm high energy, I have more time. I don't have to do extra pickup. I don't have to cook because I have leftovers, whatever your circumstance is. On those days, I'm going to do 1 hour, right? I'm going to hit my maximum, and my maximum is to run 1 hour. Now, on other days where, that's the day where I have extra carpooling that I have to do. That's the day where I have to wake up really early the next morning. That's the day where I have a longer work day, or whatever their circumstances. Let's say that certain days of the month or the week are just more, busy for you. On those days, you have a minimum goal. So you say to yourself, okay, on those days, I am going to run for 10 minutes. 10 minutes is a small goal, but it's enough to keep me active, keep the momentum going, that I have not let the day come and go without me having done something in the way of setting that goal. And so you set ranges when it comes to goal setting and habit building, as opposed to, I'm going to do this exact number of a thing for this amount of time every single day. It's not realistic for a lot of us. And what happens is a lot of people, they drop their habit by the second or third week because they're just not keeping up with it and they feel like, what's the point? Let me just give up, right? So instead of abandoning the goal altogether, make it work for you, make it realistic, set ranges and not a very rigid, specific goal. So when it comes to Ramadan, when it comes to the ibadat, the worship that we want to do in Ramadan, rather than saying, okay, every day I'm going to read a juz'a and a half, or, a full juz'a, or, 3 juz'as, or whatever, okay, whatever the number is, you say to yourself, okay, on my best day, on the weekends where I can sleep in, where I don't have work, where I don't have to get up for the kids and their school routine, I don't have school, or whatever your circumstance is, on those days, I want to do a little bit more Quran reading. I'm going to spend a little bit more time. My maximum is going to be 2 hours, or it's going to be X number of juz'as of the Quran. Now, on my hardest days, on the days where I'm really low energy and I'm just trying to get through the fasting day, I won't let the day pass unless I've read at least 10 minutes of Quran, or I've read 2 pages, or whatever you've set your goal to be. So I hope that makes sense. Set a range when it comes to your goals that you want to do in Ramadan. Set ranges, don't set specifics, because specific can, not be held up based on the circumstance that you have. But if you set a range, inshallah, it's easier to work with, and then you won't go below your minimum, but you can always hit your maximum on the days that you're able to, and even maybe go beyond that. So inshallah, the range thing really, really works effectively. I highly recommend it for Ramadan goals and other goals in your life, inshallah. So that's the next takeaway that I wanted to talk about. The next point that I want to say is, this is fundamental point. This right here is so profound, is so important. If you take nothing out of this workshop, inshallah, you take a lot out of this workshop, but this is right here, I think, one of the most important takeaways. And so the next thing I want to talk about is to do Ramadan with the post-Ramadan in mind, okay? Do Ramadan with the post-Ramadan in mind. What do I mean by that? You want to approach Ramadan and you want to go through the days of Ramadan while maintaining an idea of, or a vision of, who do I want to be after Ramadan is over? Okay, what do I want to get out of this month? And what do I want to carry with me once this month is over? Planning for the month of Ramadan is important, it's profound. It will set you up for a more successful Ramadan, inshallah. But also planning for your post-Ramadan is equally important. So if your plan only extends itself to the last day of Ramadan and then it ends at the first day of Eid, we're right back to our old habits. We just pick up where we left off before Ramadan started. We're back to our old habits, old routines. Then really, what's the purpose, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us Ramadan as an opportunity to have a glimpse of ourselves at our best. We really get to see our maximum potential. We get to see what we're like when, we're on little sleep, when we have been, completely decreased in our nourishment and not eating as often and as much as we want. And yet we are better focused in our worship. We feel a deeper connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We feel more inner peace. And all of this beauty comes from just doing the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us to do, which is to worship Him and to honor Him. And so if we let Ramadan come and go and we got a glimpse of ourselves, of what we could be like when we're at our best, but then Ramadan ends and we just sort of slide back into our old habits, then it was really not the best use of this blessed month and all the sacrifices that you made in this blessed month. So really think of the type of person you want to be, inshallah, after Ramadan is over. Throughout the month, write down notes to yourself. Say, okay, I find that I don't, Qiyam al-Layl, praying in the nights, in the hours of the night, is not that difficult. Why do I push it away? Why am I resisting doing it throughout the rest of the year? Maybe I need to set my alarm once a week, after Ramadan is over. And maybe I will, try to make that a habit of just once a week, and then maybe build on that from there. Once it becomes, something of a routine, I do more qiyam now. Inshallah, I want to stick with this habit after Ramadan. Or Quran. I find that like I kind of push Quran reading to the end of the day. I don't have time for it. It's not something that I prioritize. But in Ramadan, I just feel like it's so easy to pick up the Quran. It's just like, it's something that I love and I actually enjoy. So what's wrong that the rest of the year that I don't do this? Well, start thinking of ways that you can incorporate more reading of the Quran. Something right off the bat that I want to say is, if you establish the same time every single day to have the time that you read Quran in, it's much more easier to maintain that as a habit. So I know some people, they pray Fajr, they do their Quran reading, whether it's a page, 2 pages, whatever they've set for themselves as a goal. But they just know, like after Fajr, I read my Quran that I've set for myself, and then alhamdulillah, it's done, and I feel good, and I've made that connection, and that's it. It's become a habit. Like, it's like now I need to do it. It's not like I'm forcing myself to do it. There might be a period of time where you have to sort of push yourself, but then after these things become habit, and they become things that your soul needs and nourishes on. So really want to emphasize this idea of who do you want to be after Ramadan is over. Inshallah, we don't want to be what I've heard scholars term as Ramadan Muslims. We're like really passionate about our Islam. We do all the worship. We show up. We go to the masjid consistently. We read the Quran. We do all the good deeds. And then once Ramadan is over, we kind of like, not like we abandon our Islam by any means, but we don't want to just show up as Muslims in the month of Ramadan and then sort of like give that a secondary role for the rest of the year, inshallah. So, right, we want to, inshallah, consider Ramadan as a training period, right? Like I said, it's a glimpse of you at your best. So on the first day of Eid, that's when the race really begins. Ramadan is the training. It's the pushing you to be the best that you can be, develop habits, let go of bad habits. And then the first day of Eid comes, and then the rest of the year follows. And that's when you really want to maintain and push yourself with that momentum that you came with Ramadan from, inshallah. So that's the next takeaway that I wanted to talk about. Inshallah, we really want to maintain the habits that we establish in Ramadan and keep them up for after Ramadan. And something that my father once taught me was that if you want to know how well your worship was accepted in the month of Ramadan, look at how well you maintain those worships after Ramadan, those acts of worship after Ramadan. So if I want to know if my qiyam was accepted, am I maintaining it after Ramadan? Obviously, you're not going to be able to in the same intensity and in the same frequency as you did in the month of Ramadan. But are you doing some qiyam after Ramadan? Quran reading, you're not going to be able to maybe do a whole juz'ah every day after Ramadan is over and maintain the same level of reading and consistency and so on. Okay, that's fine. But are you still maintaining some Quranic reading after Ramadan? If so, then what you did in Ramadan was accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's an extra incentive to, inshallah, try and maintain as much of that beauty that you were able to capture in the month of Ramadan for after Ramadan. Okay, so that's the next takeaway that I wanted to talk about. Next, what I wanted to say is a very strategic way to look at your worship in Ramadan. And there's nothing wrong or tricky or cheating the system about this. These are advice from our Prophet ﷺ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves when we can take his shortcuts and we can make life easier for ourselves. And Allah knows our circumstance. Allah knows that there's people out there who can't just take a whole month off during Ramadan. They still have to show up for work. They still have to get up early. Allah knows that a lot of us are mothers and our children wake up super early. And so we can't just kind of stay up all night and worship and then make up the sleep the next day. And Allah knows and sees all of this. It's not lost on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah wants al-yusr, he wants ease for us. He doesn't want hardship. But We also want to do the best that we can. We want to push ourselves. But I want to talk about the next point, which is to worship smart, not hard. For those people who cannot take time off of work, who can't just stop their daily demands and tasks, who still have to maintain their, the demands of their life, their students or their working individuals or their moms or whatever the circumstance is, it's important to embrace this concept here of worshiping smart and not necessarily hard. So what does this mean? Make strategic moves that will cut your workload without decreasing your success and your amount of reward with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you have all the time in the world and not many responsibilities, great. Like my parents, mashallah, they're both retired. All the kids are out of the home. They have the best Ramadan I can imagine. They read the Quran multiple times. They're like, it's a dream Ramadan because their schedules are theirs and they can really give the month everything that they've got. Okay, not all of us have that luxury. So if you have all the time of the world, great. But for those who have responsibilities, for those who have work schedules, it's different, right? So what do I want to say? You might not have a 2-hour block to read Quran straight, or unable to do 3 hours of qiyam because you have to get up early the next morning. So you don't have to feel inadequate. Allah doesn't want that for you. Allah doesn't want you to bury your head in shame and say, I'm not doing like others. Look at me. I've only been able to read, a quarter of the Quran, and other people are finishing their 10th khatma, their 10th completion of the Quran. Look at me. I'm terrible. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful and he's forgiving and he's kind and generous. And so it's whatever effort given your circumstance that you can present. That's what Allah looks at. But again, for those who have really demanding work life schedules and so forth, the first thing I want to say for you, be a master of intentions. This is how you can be strategic and how you can maximize reward and do the work that you're already doing and actually get rewarded for the everyday mundane tasks. So what do I mean by this? Every mundane action, everything that you do in your daily activities, make it for the sake of Allah. Make it a form of worship. You can really optimize the amount of rewards that you get and the connection that you make with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by just switching your mindset and dedicating everything you do in your day for him. And it's not being fake. It's not just trying to get hasanat for free, get good deeds for free. You sincerely want to dedicate everything that you do. And by the way, this is how we should wire our thinking and how we should live our life. Everything we do, we want to do it for the sake of Allah, no matter how routine it is, right? So for example, cooking. So for those of us who cook, men, women, right? You're cooking anyway, right? You've got to make iftar for the household. It's got to be done. It's a chore that has to see itself through. So rather than be like, oh, look at me, I'm doing all the cooking, I'm such a victim, I'm doing all the meal prep and I'm setting the table and I'm cleaning up, you can actually intend all of that for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then you're rewarded multiple times over because of doing that. So you say to yourself, I'm cooking this meal, I'm preparing, I'm chopping the salad, I am grilling, I am baking, I am whatever, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because I'm feeding my family who is fasting. And by the way, the Prophet ﷺ told us, whoever gives iftar to one who is fasting, they will have a reward similar to the person who is fasting. So let's say I feed my husband, my children that are fasting. I get rewarded for fasting that day, but I also get the reward of their fasts. That's a pretty good deal from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if I make the intention that I am making this meal to nourish them after they have put in a hard, long day of fasting, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you multiple rewards, inshallah. So what a beautiful faith we have, really. Being intentional, being thoughtful, being mindful of our everyday tasks can turn them into acts of worship, and you can get more deeds for that. Dropping off your children to school, picking them up. It's a very, routine tasks. I have to do it. I mean, I got to do this thing. It's not like I'm doing anyone any favors. But if I intended that I am helping my children gain their educational development and feed their mind through their education, and I'm taking them to this, and I'm bringing them from that for your sake, ya Allah, there you go. You just made that an act of worship, dropping off your kids, picking them up from school, you studying for the students who are in attendance. Your degree, inshallah, it will be of benefit to humanity. It will be of benefit to maybe, inshallah, Muslims, or to anyone. And so every essay that you write, every assignment that you submit, every lecture that you attend, inshallah, intend it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it is a step closer to getting that degree that you can serve humanity, serve society, inshallah, with, and in essence, serve Allah. So make everything intentional for the sake of Allah. That way, if you're not someone who's able to spend hours in the night in prayer and worship because you have early starts and early wake up, then throughout your day, you've earned, inshallah, you've earned deeds for doing your everyday tasks for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is what I mean by worshiping smart. Another example of worshiping smart: multiply your deeds. What do I mean by that? See if there's things in your day that you can double up on the rewards. So basically hitting two birds with one stone. So for example, I love cooking. That's what I do. It seems like that's all I do some days, right? So I'll use another cooking analogy. If you're cooking or baking something, make a little bit more. Let's increase the quantity of what you're making, and then wrap some up and drive it over to a friend, a fellow classmate, a neighbor, what have you. And then you're cooking, right? You've put in the effort, you're putting in the time to do this. Now you've just doubled up the rewards because you got to share that deed with someone else. Another example, you're heading to Taraweeh prayers at night. You call up someone and you say, do you want to come with me? I'm going to swing by and pick you up. They're perfectly capable of maybe taking themselves, but you intended that you're going to save a parking spot for someone else. You, inshallah, got the deeds of encouraging someone to do a good deed, which, by the way, the Prophet ﷺ told us is something that's highly rewarded. I'll read you the hadith. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, whoever guides another to do a good deed, they will get the reward of themselves doing the deed and the reward of the person that they encourage to do the deed. So encourage others to come along and do acts of worship with you. Maybe if you're looking to donate to a certain charity, you can send it on a WhatsApp group or your mailing groups and say, I'm looking to support this charity. Whoever wants to join me, thought I'd let you know. Even if people don't donate, you got the reward for sharing that around, for hoping to inspire others to take on good deeds. These are things you can be strategic and smart about that will earn you more good deeds, inshallah, for doing same amount of work, and then you just let the investment roll for itself, inshallah. So the possibilities here are endless. I know another example. Maybe you're going to give a lesson to your kids and their friends about Ramadan or about anything Islam related. Invite more of their friends over and let more of them listen so that the good deeds can multiply and extend for you, inshallah. Stuff like that, right? So that's another way to worship smart. I'll give you one more example. Incorporate remembrance into your day. No matter how busy you are, no matter what your lifestyle is like, no matter how much there's demands on your time, everyone can incorporate more dhikr, more remembrance, just by, doing the everyday thing. So for example, you're doing your housework, or you're a student, you're walking to your class, you're on the bus heading to campus. This is where you can start doing your dhikr. And truly in Ramadan especially, but for even the rest of the year, dhikr is one of those things that, can really strengthen your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It can erase your sins. It can put blessings in your way. Like, it's a really important act of worship. And in Ramadan especially, don't let hours of silence go by or quiet. Like, always be in a state of dhikr. And this, again, just by doing your everyday tasks, you can incorporate, you can fold it into your day. And inshallah, it's not going to demand more from you, but you're reaping rewards for it. So even just listening to the Quran. Maybe it's difficult for you to find time to sit and read, and as much as you should put the effort in to do that, inshallah. But what's to stop you from trying to do a khatma or a completion of the Quran audio, listening to it from beginning to end? That's something you can do while going through your day, driving and walking and so forth and so on. Or just doing constant dhikr tasbih, saying subhanallah, alhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah, Allahu akbar. And let me tell you, you guys in Hawaii and Oahu, there's a lot to say subhanallah for. Like just being in that paradise, everywhere you turn, it's just one spectacular view after the next. It's a place that really inspires tasbih. My goodness. So inshallah, think of ways that you can increase your dhikr, and this inshallah is a way to worship smart and allow yourself to reap more rewards, even if you're pressed for time, even if there's a lot of demands on you, even if it's going to be a busy Ramadan for you. These are things you can, inshallah, put into your day. So, inshallah, we'll keep moving then. Worship smart, not hard. The next thing I want to talk about is actually the plan, okay? When I say put together a Ramadan plan, this next portion talks directly to that. The other stuff is more like strategy and advice and so on. But this next section, inshallah, is the sort of bread and butter of this presentation. So your Ramadan plan should have the following, okay? The ideal Ramadan plan should include the next points that I'm going to talk about, inshallah. Number one, Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he introduces Ramadan in the Quran, he doesn't tell us that, oh, Ramadan is the month of fasting. He tells us that later, but automatically, right off the bat, in Surah Al-Baqarah, when he introduces the month of Ramadan, he calls it the month of Quran. It is really important and really profound to make the Quran a central component of your Ramadan plan and of your Ramadan experience. If the whole month of Ramadan comes and goes and you haven't given the Quran the justice that it's owed, or you haven't connected to it at a higher level than you did previous to the month's start, it really is a shame. And it really is something that you want to, inshallah, from now, we're just nowadays, we're at the countdown now, like we're looking at less than 48 hours before the official start of the holy month, inshallah. So make Quran one of your most central goals in this holy month, inshallah. Obviously, reading it, okay, that's very important. A lot of people make a goal of reading the whole book from beginning to end, all 30 chapters. And on the months that we have 30 days, it's always nice to do one chapter a day. I believe this year, I don't know if Hawaii, if you guys follow the calculation method or the moon sighting method. Here in Santa Clara, California, we just follow the calculation. So we know right off that it's going to be 29 days this year. So knowing that, you want to probably do more than just a juz'a on some days, because if you want to do a completion, if you want to do a khatma, then you have to understand that, like, okay, you have 29 days to work with. And then some days you might not be able to do an entire juz'a and so forth. But anyway, reading the Quran, you set your goal, knowing your capacity, knowing your limitations, knowing your ability. But reading it has to be a part of your, inshallah, Ramadan goals. So when we talk about the Quran, reading it, but also learning from it, right? So maybe listening to lectures that do tafsir of certain chapters of the Quran, reflecting on those meanings, sitting. I know my sister-in-law, subhanAllah, she's a revert to Islam, and she's not able to read the Arabic. So she does, as best as she can, khatma, a completion of the translation of the Quran. So she tries to read the meanings from, Surah Al-Fatiha, and then as far as she can go into the book. So whatever your goal is, inshallah, there has to be a reading component. There should be a learning component, learning and reflecting on the lessons and the tafsir and just some of the deeper, beautiful meanings of the Quran, inshallah. Basically, at the end of the day, you want to connect. You want connection with the Quran, inshallah. So make part of your Ramadan goals having a connection, having a relationship with the Quran, and one that you want to maintain after the month is over, inshallah. So that's the first component of, inshallah, your Ramadan plan that I would recommend. Second, good deeds, this is the month to really increase the level of good deeds that we want to do. Basically, as just a devout Muslim, we want to live our lives looking at all and any potential to do as many good deeds as possible. It's really like, this is the thing we want to compete in. You know, this is like, you see someone doing a good deed. This is where you want to have some healthy jealousy, right? This is where it's allowed in Islam to kind of actually look at people who do really good, and you want to aspire to be like them. Not jealousy in that you don't want them to do it. No, the idea is that this is what I want to look up to. This is the thing that I want to, be on the same level as. So doing good deeds, inshallah, all throughout the year, but especially in Ramadan, try and think, a good deed a day kind of like goal. I've set that up for my kids. Especially like even my little one, my 6-year-old, one of the Ramadan goals that we've set is to do one good deed a day. And so, you can get creative. Just even things like reaching out to family and relatives, in other parts of the world, calling your aunts, your uncles that you don't typically keep in touch with on a regular basis because they're just not close to you in geographical proximity. But this is Salat Rahim. This is like connecting with your kin, which is highly rewarded in Islam. So doing that kind of thing in Ramadan, helping others, serving others. If you know someone's in need, before they even ask you for help, you've offered it to them because you want those good deeds, inshallah. A kind word, spreading kindness, checking in with old friends. Get creative. There's so many ways we can be at the service of others and reap good deeds, inshallah. Reaching out to our neighbors, telling, hey, this is Ramadan, this is a special time for us Muslims. It's a time of self-introspection, a time of reflection. If I've ever wronged you, if you've ever seen anything displeasing from me, I ask for your forgiveness. Whatever the good deeds that you can think of, things that you have always wanted to do but never got around to doing, that now is the time to do them. And inshallah, trying to do them consistently throughout the month. So inshallah, incorporate good deeds in your Ramadan plan. Next, fasting. Of course, we fast in Ramadan. That's a given. Even our young kids do it, right? So fasting is something that we do. It's our, one of the 5 pillars, and it's special to Ramadan. But I want us to start thinking about really elevating the level of fasting that we do to beyond hunger and thirst. So we're going to get hungry and thirsty this Ramadan, right? Not sure what time iftar will be. By the way, the time changes this Sunday. So it's going to be 1 extra hour of fasting. Maghrib is going to be a later 1 hour, but that's okay. The point is that, hunger and thirst is routine. It's part of the fasting experience. But let's kick up our fast up a level by making us fast with our eyes, fasting from not seeing the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made not permissible to us, fasting of the ears, not listening to the things that are not permissible, fasting of the mouth, not speaking about things that we really shouldn't be engaging in, that can really compromise the acceptance of our fasting, even fasting of the limbs in general. So really thinking about a holistic, a comprehensive fasting away from all the things that bring harm to our souls, right? So when I talk to youth about this specific point, a lot of the music that they're listening to these days, a lot of the shows that they're watching, when the Prophet ﷺ tells us that المرء على دين خليله, a person takes on the faith or the habits, if you will, of the friends that they are with or the company that they keep. And when we talk about the company that we keep, we often think of the people we hang out with, our friends and so forth. But actually, the company that we keep is whatever we are exposing ourselves to, whatever we're consuming. And that's the media that we consume. These are the shows that we watch, the music that we listen to, and so forth. And so I'm not here to make judgment calls or fatwas about music and permissibility and so on and so forth. But what I will say is that come Ramadan, put that stuff away. Honestly, and when you ease back after Ramadan is over, how much you reintroduce back into your life from that, be very selective, be very, you know, be very cautious of what you allow your soul to consume, because it does affect you, subhanAllah. So fasting on a deeper level, you know, fasting of the eyes, fasting of the ears, inshallah, we can really attain that level. Okay, next, sadaqah and charity. So, of course, Ramadan is a time where we have to be giving. We have to, you know, think of those out there who have not been as blessed, who have tests that maybe we have not been tried with. Walhamdulillah, yani we really need to sort of think of others and do more charity work. You know, something that my dad has advised me that I really, really love, a really beautiful piece of advice. The last 10 days of Ramadan, not even the odd number nights, the odd number nights especially, but start from the last 10 nights of Ramadan, every day do a charity. And I mean, with all the online options and how streamlined and how easy this process has become, a lot of Islamic organizations have really made it like a couple of clicks away. It couldn't be easier, right? But the last 10 nights, especially, even if they're small donations, truly, it's not about the amount. It's not about quantity. It's really about heart and soul and doing that within your means. But my dad was saying, you know, if you do a donation every single night, then you know you would have, inshallah, donated on the night of Qadr, Laylatul Qadr, and that's going to really maximize rewards. So do a little bit every night, you know? So maybe not like a big donation on one night. Try to spread out that goodness for as many nights as possible in the last 10 nights, inshallah. So that's when it comes to charity, and no one can tell you how much or to who, or, you know, these are things you have to sort of make decisions for. What I like to do is include my kids now into this process. We look at different charities. We look at our masajid that we get so much benefit from in our community. We look at people that in our lives that have a right over us, our relatives. We have family in Gaza, so like that's going to be huge this year, inshallah, with respect to charity and dua and so forth. But yeah, you know, think about, inshallah, from now, you know, how you want to maximize the, inshallah, charity giving in the last 10 nights and all throughout the month as best as you can, inshallah. But there's that. And then finally, your Ramadan plan should include dua and remembrance. So this is such a pillar of our faith, of our worship. I mean, it's so important to constantly be in a state of dua, constantly be conversing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, letting Allah know your hopes and dreams and fears and anxieties and wishes and ambitions. Make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala your guide, make him your confidant, make him your best friend, you know? And we don't talk and converse with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as much as we should. So inshallah, this month of Ramadan is a time to really open up that gateway between ourselves and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make a lot of dua, start collecting them from now and throughout the month. And then especially when the last nights hit, the last 10, you're making those du'as constantly. Sometimes they don't just come to you naturally. Maybe you're overwhelmed with emotion, or you're thinking about, you know, how your performance was this Ramadan and so forth, and the words aren't coming. So there's a lot of great resources out there, dua compilations, PDFs, books, and so forth. I like to go through them too, because sometimes like I get stuck and I have a list of people I want to make dua for, and I keep adding to that list. Of course, family, relatives, friends, loved ones, close ones. But then there's people who I know out here in the community who have been, you know, diagnosed with certain, subhanAllah, health related issues, people who are beloved to us who've passed away, who I want to ask for Allah's rahmah on them. So you have an idea of who you want to make for dua for, and then the things you want to make for dua for yourself. You generally have an idea. Writing these things down, I'm a big advocate for that. But basically incorporate dua into your, inshallah, Ramadan plan. And yeah, I guess there's a lot more I can say about that, but inshallah, I'll just leave you with making that as one of your places to concentrate your efforts and inshallah, your worship in. The last thing I will leave with before we get into questions and answers is you want to finish strong, right? Ramadan, even if you feel like you didn't give it justice, even if you feel like I could have done more, I wish I did more, the last nights of Ramadan, you know, that's when you want to not worry about what passed, but you really want to focus on what's left. And everything in Islam, subhanAllah, gets judged by its finalities, by the khawatim, right? Like how we finish off, how we finish our lives. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us finish them in a way most pleasing to Him. But in Ramadan, we really want to focus on the finish. We really want to finish in the best of ways, inshallah. So basically for me, this is where I'm pulling out the freezer-friendly meals. I'm not spending hours on end making, the meals. The favorite recipes that my kids want in Ramadan, I've made those in the beginning part of Ramadan, middle part of Ramadan. The end is a time where I just really need to focus up. This is a time where, personally, for my family, I'm not by any means recommending this for others, but we don't really accept invitations or invite people in the last 10 nights. We kindly apologize that like the last 10 nights are really critical. What happens is with like getting invited and so on, the social elements get kind of like stretched out, and then there's not enough time to make it to Taraweeh. You're just too tired to do more worship and so forth. I think there's a time and a necessity to do some social gatherings in Ramadan. It's special. It's a time we come together. It's a communal thing. It's very celebratory and festive and beautiful. But last 10 nights, it's really about, maximizing and really connecting and really exerting, and inshallah, throwing ourselves at the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so that we can maintain as much of that beauty and that momentum for the rest of the year, inshallah. So I will wrap up there, and I will say Jazakumullah khair for listening. I hope this was of benefit. I really pray that inshallah it's getting you thinking and excited about Ramadan. I'm still putting my plan together. I have some points, but inshallah I want to fine tune it before the official start. And don't let your plan overwhelm you. Don't let it feel like, oh my God, I'm not following my plan. Oh, there's not enough on it. Or I'm not pushing myself as much as I should, or I'm pushing myself too hard. Take it easy. It's just meant to be a guide for you. You will consult with it throughout the month. If you're getting that, mid-Ramadan slump where you kind of get like a bit exhausted and you just, the fatigue is catching up with you, or the caffeine withdrawal is catching up with you, you consult your plan and you look at it, and then you recommit to inshallah. So don't let it overwhelm you. You don't want it to have the negative effect. You don't want it to have an adverse effect, but inshallah, hold yourself up to a high standard of pushing yourself and doing it within your limits, within your energy levels. And I pray Allah accepts from all of us. May it be our best Ramadan yet. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevate us in our spirit and in our worship, and allow us to gain higher levels of connectivity with Him, and make us better believers when we finish from the holy month, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.
Jazakallah khair, sister, for a beautiful talk. So we have good almost 16 minutes for question and answer. So
Okay.
You're most welcome to prepare your question and unmute and ask, or you can just type. So I have two questions on the chat. First question is from a sister that, sister, they do make plan. They write down sometime, they have plan in their mind, but due to there's some period at a stage she cannot fulfill. So what did you suggest for her to fulfill the plan she had? The sisters cannot, a certain period of time in a month, they're not able to fulfill their plan. So what is the suggestion you have?
Excellent question. This comes from not just you, my beloved sister. This comes from a lot of concerned sisters that, we, as women, we have our menstrual cycles. And so there are certain things that we're, not required to do, that we're exempt from doing once the cycle comes, which is prayer and touching the Quran. So a lot of sisters say, we're off to a great start. We have that momentum, we have that energy. And then It comes and it kind of like deflates us and it throws us off our game. Or it comes in the very end of Ramadan when everyone is like in their most spirited, most excited time. And then they're just really, trying to embrace the month and finish strong. And here I am, I can't pray and I can't, So I want to tell you, there's so much that you can still do. And budgeting actually in your plan for that week or however many days where you're exempt from praying will allow you to, inshallah, even maximize the amount of worship that you do during the menstrual cycle, inshallah. So being on the period does not mean that you cannot listen to the Quran. It does not mean that you cannot read meanings and translations of the Quran. Matter of fact, for a lot of women, this is the time to really sort of increase that level. If you're not going to be able to touch the pages of the Quran, so this is where I want to, inshallah, increase lecture listening to the translations, to the tafsir and so forth. This is a time where you can pick up a book about any aspect of Islamic knowledge that you've always wanted to read about, always wanted to learn about, increase your knowledge about. This is the time to sort of get immersed in a subject in Islamic sciences and Islamic worship and tazkiyah and what have you, and really sort of learn it and immerse yourself in it. Because if you're not praying and if you're not, touching the Quran, this is a time to sort of lean on that more. Tasbih, dua. I know for myself and many others that, we really kick up the dua when you cannot pray. So, start coming up with an idea of, okay, when that time comes, inshallah, I'm going to increase other aspects of my worship, inshallah. And I know for a lot of sisters, they get creative if they want to do invites, if they want to, invite people over for iftar and they want to have like these gatherings and so on, they'll budget it during that time where they cannot pray, because you can taste the food. You can, be just kind of like nourish yourself to be able to undergo that task. And also, if it's going to be a day that you can't fast in, you might as well reap benefits and rewards by doing something that has a lot of benefit and a lot of good deeds, inshallah. So again, the idea of worshiping smart, think of, again, all the things I mentioned that don't require you to touch the Quran or pray. Honestly, there's a lot that you can do. I just want sisters to know that it's not a time to sort of like wallow, not to suggest that you're saying that in any which way, but I just see a lot of that in our community where it's like, oh, men don't have to deal with this, and this is just like really throwing me off and so on. No, don't worry. There's still so much that you can do, inshallah. Just being prepared for it and having a plan will allow you to maximize even the time that you cannot fast, inshallah, in Ramadan. So jazakallah khair for that question.
Yeah, jazakallah khair for your response. And when you're giving your response, it reminded me that when you're talking about Quran, there is not only one component reading, there is other component learning. Many a time we see that a revert or convert, he or she leans towards learning more than reading because he cannot read. And those Muslims, sometimes we put emphasis on reading so much that learning becomes secondary, but we need to focus on both of this. So we have Sister Nigat raising hand. Sister Nigat, please go and ask your question.
Jazakallah khair for this organizing this session. It was amazing. May Allah reward each one of you who presented as well as the ones who organized it. So I just wanted to add to the beautiful discussion that discussion that sister did. I just wanted to add that we can always listen to Quran also while we are, cooking and we are driving and whatnot. And one thing I tell to the reviewers all the time, and I as a non-Arab speaker, really benefited from it, is that listening to Quran in Arabic as well as your native language, so that you can understand what the Quran is saying. And it is really amazing. It really hits you differently. And also, if you are, say, doing something else and you're listening to it, then it also gives you time to kind of reflect on the meaning of what has been said. So just wanted to add that. Jazakallah khair. And that's all.
That was so beautiful. Jazakallah khair for mentioning that. And thank you for your kind words and sentiments. Really, I feel it in my heart. But I absolutely and wholeheartedly agree with what you said. You have to make the Quran yours. They are the verses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are messages to each and every one of us. You know, every ayah is an open letter from Allah to us. Even if they're stories of the prophets or Allah is recounting a certain, battle that has happened, there's always lessons, there's always takeaways for each and every one of us. And so if you're listening to it in your native language, you can gain that connection that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to gain out of reading his beautiful verses, listening to it. And what a great way of, when we talk about being strategic and smart, while you're doing your chores or you're driving or you're whatever it is that you're doing and you're listening to the Quran at the same time, you just, again, you hit two birds with one stone. You are allowed to reflect while listening to the words by someone else. Sometimes when you're reading, subhanAllah, like there's a lot going on in the brain. There's a lot of like, my to-do list and I got to do this and you're thinking about a lot of things. So reading has its place and it's necessary and so on. But also listening has profound and necessary impact on us that we should inshallah embrace. So I'm so glad that you mentioned that. Jazakallah khair.
We have another raised hand. iPhone. I don't see your name, brothers or sisters. So please go ahead, unmute yourself and ask question.
Oh, hey, assalamu alaikum. This is Muhammad Ali Khan. How are you guys? Good. Great discussion. I was able to kind of take most of it in with my 3 little kids running around in the background. You made a very good point. There's a lot of active worships, like picking up kids from school, dropping them to school, all these cooking and so on and so forth. Ramadan comes and we're all geared up, we're all gung-ho, but then it starts to take a little bit of toll because the other activities are starting to slow down a bit.
Yep.
My question to you was, during the prayers, Tarawih prayers, how important is it that you complete it till the end? I'm not here to compete with all the Muslims because I have a lot of responsibilities. I'm not here to come out and say I can make every single prayer during Tarawih and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people leave at a certain point. Can you show some clarification as to when you can leave, after what part of the Tarawih prayers, and all, if you have some clarification on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it really is whatever your energy, your circumstance, your ability will allow you to do. Typically in the masjid, there will be 2 shifts, if you will. There's the 8 rak'ah shift. So you pray Isha, you pray the Sunnah, and then there's 8 rak'at and 2 rak'at installments that the Shaykh will complete. And then after that's completed, there's the extended version, if you will, an additional 12 rak'at. Again, in 2 rak'ah installments. So it really is all about you and your ability and your bandwidth and your energy and so on. The beautiful thing about our faith is that there's no one size fits all. There's no cookie cutter, like everyone must do this much. And no, it's not like that at all. Everyone must do the fara'id, the fard prayers, the 5 daily prayers. That's
right.
What
Absolutely.
Allah expects from us. That's what we're owed. That's what we owe him. But then those extra prayers that we do in Ramadan, Allah knows we've gone through a fasting day. Allah knows that some people their work demands are different than others. And so for those who leave early, I'm sure there's a circumstance that's dictating why they had to remove themselves at the time that they did. Those who can stay longer, I'm sure there's a circumstance for why they want to stay for the entire. So really, you're competing with yourself. You are in it for your own, inshallah, spiritual nourishment. If you can gain that in 2 rak'at, in 4 rak'at, in 6, great. If you can do it, if you need it for the 8, then stay for the 8. If you have an early wake up, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful. So do what you can. There's days, I'll be honest, I would have these big invites and I've been on my feet all day. And so I won't go with my husband to do Taraweeh in the masjid. I'll pray Isha, I'll pray my sunnah, and then I'll do however much I can at home. I'm able to do 2, great. If I can push myself to do another 2, I'll do it. If I feel like, okay, I really need to call it a night, and then inshallah recharge tomorrow, and then I'll revisit what I can do tomorrow. So take it day by day, inshallah. Definitely, I would personally recommend doing something after Isha, right? At least 2 rak'at, inshallah. But I mean, look at how you are throughout the month. That's what I'm saying when I talk about ranges. You know, maybe as a goal, I'm not going to do less than 2 on any given night, no matter how tired I am, no matter how early I have to get up the next, whatever. But on my best nights, on my nights where I'm most flexible, inshallah, I want to hit my 8 rakat target or my whatever rakat target. So yeah, I mean, there's really not like a rigid, everyone must do such and such. It's really what you're able to, inshallah, put forth. And may Allah accept from all of us.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, you're welcome.
We have one more question on the chat. The sister Noman asked, but maybe for this question, I need to give you some background.
Okay.
So, you know, when we do our deed, the voluntary deed, there are 2 camps, you can say, the Arab camp, Middle Eastern camp, and Deshi camp. So there's a kind of deed we do in Deshi camp, like in the Southeast Asia. We sit down and for 10, 15 minutes, we just do zikr. That
Okay.
15 minutes, 20 minutes, just zikr.
Yeah.
So sometimes our mind wanders around and comes back, but that time is dedicated for zikr. So Brother Noman is asking that, how about we skip those zikr and recite Quran instead of during Ramadan? This is the questions.
Yeah, listen, there's no right or wrong way about that. Dhikr is beautiful. Quran is beautiful. Of course, Ramadan is the month of Quran. If I was to say you want to prioritize something, I would give my vote to Quran, but not to knock down at all in any which way the value and the benefit and the beauty of dhikr. Maybe alternating, maybe some days this, some days that. But I like when it comes to the month of Ramadan, wherever I can squeeze in more Quran, I'm going to do that. The dhikr, it can always be done, you know, while you're working, while you're doing other things. So I'm not saying, you know, it should take like a secondary role to Quran. There's a need for the 2 forms of worship, inshallah. So I don't want to say this or that. I would maybe do the alternating thing, but there's benefit in both, truly, like both really good and necessary forms of worship.
Jazakallah khair.
Yeah.
So yeah, the sisters in the meeting, prepare one more question. Or maybe, I mean, many of the deed you mentioned, you gave example from cooking. So but then when you're saying about the cooking, it reminded me that, mashallah, our brother become more demanding during Ramadan. We want to eat more. And our sister has to work double, which is supposed to be half, which goes opposite way. And sometimes as they also have plan and they are not able to fulfill those plans. But yeah, you beautifully have explained that whatever the sisters are doing, if they are not able to fulfill their plan, they just made intention that every works become a worship, whatever they do, inshallah.
Absolutely.
Is anyone have any other questions? Yeah, probably. There's no more questions from the audience. I had a questions about writing it down. So the first topics you talked about.
Yeah.
When you said that, hey, how about we write down what we want to do? That reminded me that, I mean, in our life, every meeting we have a day, we book it on the calendar. Everything we want to do, there is somewhere documented, and we follow those in sequence in our day-to-day life. Either it's job, study, but when it comes to the spiritual activities, comes to relationship with Allah, we don't follow the same protocol with what we follow in all other affairs. When you're saying that actually, I mean, reminded me that why is some, I feel like it's double standard. Am I not supposed to follow the same protocol, same importance for the spiritual? Oh, I mean, I'm supposed to give more emphasis on the spiritual matters. So, I mean, I never did that. And maybe this is also a reminder for all of us. We can try to do that actually. This Ramadan, as sisters has reminded, we literally write down something and try to follow this. I mean, so if you can really say something where all of us can really write down something and practice for the first time in our life. I mean, for me, it will be for first time in our life if I write down something, the Ramadan plan. Maybe if you can maybe elaborate or give more specific suggestion to all of us on that matter.
Yeah, honestly, the biggest motivator in this specific point is a point that I heard made once. I forget, in a lecture or a workshop, but basically, if you want to know where you stand with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, look at where you prioritize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your life. So like you said, you know, we budget and we plan and we strategize and we do all these things for other life events, for other goals. But when it comes to our spiritual goals and our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we just kind of take it as it comes and we don't really give it as much thoughtfulness. And that's not to knock anyone down, really. That's not to make anyone feel bad. I wasn't doing it before. I remember taking a coaching program, and once I started to realize, the intricacies and the sciences behind habit building and goal setting and so on, then I realized, okay, yeah, this can be brought to the world of our Islamic worship and self-development and so on. So really, again, not a specific way to go about this. I like to just have it laid out there. I have it in categories. I have like, okay, Quran, under Quran as a heading. I have like the goals that I want to meet. Under Salat, I have the goals. So I lay it out in a way that's visually appealing to me and easy. Some people do the checkoff list thing. Some people have a chart. I know people who do it on their Excel, whatever tools and methods there are. There's a lot of apps too about like, setting goals and reminders and checking off and keeping data and having, even like a scorecard on the measurable goals that you've fulfilled and seeing your progress weekly. For some people, that's what allows them to stay motivated and stay on task. So you have to see what it is for you that will get you to perform at your best, inshallah, and then take that method, and you'll need to keep reworking on it. You'll need to continue to edit that process and edit those lists and so on. It's not going to be the same forever. Like ideally, every Ramadan we're climbing. We're getting closer and closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're shedding more and more bad deeds, bad habits, bad character traits, and we're developing better and better in our worship and in our character and picking up better inshallah habits and so on and so forth. So my dad has a lot of beautiful, I've mentioned him a few times. There's just so much wisdom that I've learned from him over the years. He said to me something, he said, use Ramadan as a barometer, as your measuring stick. Since last Ramadan, have I made better steps towards Allah? Have I progressed in my faith? Have I developed myself for the better? Or have I maybe taken some steps back? And listen, if you have, it's good to be honest. There needs to be self-awareness. There needs to be an honest self-dialogue in order to get any progress. So you can have a long look in the mirror and say, I really dropped the ball this year. I really took some steps back this year. I need to really remedy this. I need to eliminate this from my life. This is a huge distraction. This is a huge time wasting, whatever. You have to have those really difficult internal dialogues, and then, assess from Ramadan to Ramadan. Have you taken steps forward? Have you taken steps backward? Or have you even stayed stagnant? Like, have you not really made any moves this way or that way? So Ramadan is a great time to really immerse yourself in self-reflection and ask yourself these really difficult questions, and then not to beat yourself up for them. Just say, okay, yeah, now I realize I need to do better here. I need to improve there. I need to keep going with this thing. I've been maintaining this habit. I want to continue to do it. Inshallah, maybe I want to add to it. So using Ramadan as sort of the way we steer ourselves year after year so that we can continuously be closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Jazakallah khair. May Allah allow us to follow all those guidance and all the suggestions, all those good suggestions.
Allahumma ameen.
less
For
than
myself too, by the way, I'm not talking to you about this, by the way. I'm saying it to myself. I sincerely am a flawed person and I'm working on this just as much as everyone else. So inshallah, we're all in this together. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from us all.
I mean, if none of have any questions, then we can end. Before that, we have a very small announcement from the MSA. So the audiences, you're going to receive an email as well. So we're going to host 4 potlucks in this Ramadan, so that every Saturday of Ramadan, so that the community can come together and we can share iftar and everything together. It's going to be on campus, UH campus, but we're going to send out an email with the exact location and what is the format is going to be the event, the format of the event, what is going to be. Jazakallah khair, everyone. Maybe I can read the dua, how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to finish the meeting. Subhanallahi wa bihamdi. Subhanallahi wa bihamdihi. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Purity belongs to Allah, and all praise be to Him. Purity belongs to you, O Allah, and all praise be to you. I bear witness that there is none worthy of worship beside you. I beg forgiveness from you, and I repent before you. Sadaqallahu alayhi wa sallam. Jazakallah khair, sister, and thank you very much for your time. And hopefully, if you have more time, we can do this kind of session in future as well. Yeah,
I would love that anytime. And you can invite me back to beautiful Ohio.
we will definitely do that, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalam.